Dave, when you're talking about the impact on his, John Reid on his being, I mean, they had a relationship, they had a personal relationship also.
Yeah, they
And
did.
I consider that at least the way I've read to be also be a contributing factor to who he is and coming out when he did. Is that it? I mean, it was early on they had a personal
Yeah, yeah, they did. I don't know that that really had anything to do with his coming out though, per se.
oh,
Um, I think, yeah, here's where it got kind of, blurry around the edges. I believe they were involved first. They had their personal relationship first, and they moved in together. And then it was after that that John began looking after his management, which I think the record company said they were fine. They were happy with that because who better to get Elton out of bed in the morning than the guy who was there with him? So, but that ended by about the mid 70s. Uh, and it's interesting when, his supposed coming out in Rolling Stone at that time, in the 70s, I mean, where he said he was bisexual and said how, he wanted to have a long-lasting relationship with someone. But he doesn't mention that he had until recently just been in a relationship like
right.
that because he was with John, personally involved for a couple of years. But, he doesn't mention that at all. He just
Yeah.
just makes it sound like he was just single all the time. Um, and I guess, with him, I mean, and then of course he gets married in the 80s to a
Yeah.
woman. So people are thinking, well, maybe he really is bisexual, but that didn't last too long, fell apart after a couple of years. Um, I think I'd say maybe getting clean and sober was really the turning point for all that stuff of getting to feel really comfortable with himself and not coming out per se because it had been known that he'd been involved with men and was carrying on the rock and roll lifestyle. But it wasn't really until the 90s that he just began being more comfortable with being out. And yes,
Yeah.
this is my boyfriend, now partner, now husband that he became. And it was interesting in his autobiography when he talks about going out with David Furnish at first and how for him it was really kind of like the first time he'd gone out with someone in just sort of the average type of relationship that other people might have because this wasn't a guy that he was taking care of because he was the big star with all the money. He said, David had his own place, he had his own car, he had a job. It was it was just like getting
Yeah.
together with a regular person, and that was a new experience for him in his 30s or whatever age it was. But yeah, from that point on, he's just been really comfortable in acknowledging who he was. I think obviously kicking the drugs out was what made the big difference.
Yeah.
He even said that later. He realized in retrospect that one reason, and I'd always wondered, well, why did you marry a woman? And he said, I thought this was very interesting. How he thought, well, I haven't had successful relationships with men, so maybe I should be with a woman. And you think, well, yeah, I could see the logic in that. But then later, after he stopped drinking and drugging, he realized, okay, the problem wasn't I was with the wrong gender. The problem was that I was too out of it on these substances. And once he was grounded and healthy, he could make better choices for himself, which also makes sense.
Seems perfectly logical. Yeah.